Hello, I'm Super Orange Cat here today with Toonami's ratings from this past Saturday, June 8th, 2024. Let's start at the top of the block. At the top of the block, we have My Adventures with Superman at a .09. We have Zom 100 Bucket List at a .08, One Piece at a .07, and Naruto Shippuden at a .05. So actually, generally speaking, I think with the exception of Zom 100, this was the exact numbers the shows had last week. And Zom 100 actually ticked up a little bit to .08 for what I think actually is the highest rating it's had. And that's been one of the problems with Zom 100 is whether it is My Adventures of Superman or whatever you put in front of it, Zom 100 didn't do the best job of retaining viewership, and it did a bit of a better job this past Saturday, so credit for him to that. And one thing I thought was interesting when I first saw the ratings, because how I see it listed in terms of the top cable premieres for that day. So when I look at the ratings, I am looking at them for the cable premieres for Saturday, June 8th, 2024. And what I found interesting was that My Adventures of Superman was probably the first time in probably since maybe Dragon Ball Kai that a Toonami show actually cracked the top 10. It was the 10th highest show this past week in terms of ratings, which normally sounds like amazing, a cause for celebration. Then I went in and I did a little digging, and I noticed that this past Saturday was kind of an awkward Saturday for sports television. Now, usually, if you follow these ratings and if you read all these ratings, you'll see that the majority of the shows that end up having the highest ratings are sporting events. So, baseball games, basketball games, football games. And during most of the year, there normally is going to be sports on, but we're in a weird lull. First, ESPN, which typically has all these top rated cable sporting events, doesn't air that much baseball. Actually, the only sporting event it did air this past weekend on the network proper was collegiate baseball, which doesn't do well as, say, the MLB. And I could go into detail about how the MLB in general is having issues drawing people, drawing fans, and all that stuff. But I digress. That's a video for a different day, a different topic. But there really wasn't that many sports. So when you don't have that many sports, everything behind it might not necessarily get more viewers, but it would be higher in the ranks. So as a cause of the fact that it really was an inactive sports weekend, My Adventure Superman climbed into the top 10 in the 10th, which is still pretty notable. Still pretty notable. But at the same time, a bit wind aided, if you know about the concept of wind aiding in running. But ultimately, .09, the third straight episode that's gotten that number, I think that's kind of the number to expect for My Adventure Superman, which, all things considered, is actually a pretty solid number to get. Like it had a pretty good week again this week. And really, like I said, there's not much to talk about because the only thing that like did better or whatever was the fact that Zom 100 did slightly better. And again, I always credit the promos when shows do really well with this. And it was the fact that, and again, you had Beatrix actually appear for the first time, and she's the top waifu in that show, in my opinion. So put her front and center, and people are gonna want to watch. That's just how things work. And again, people showed up, and Toonami had another so-so, not really so-so. It was a good week. It was a really good week. Also, one thing I noticed, I mentioned last week's video that I was going to take a gander at the top cable reruns because I wanted to see how well Toonami Rewind was going to do. Now, as a benchmark, for the first week or so of Checkered Path, the block which was airing stuff like Ed, Ed, Eddie, Grim Adventures of Billy Mandy, Dexter's Laboratory at 5 p.m. on Adult Swim, for the first week, some of those shows were cracking the bottom of the top 200, but that phenomenon didn't last long. Checkered Pass doesn't register anymore. And I was wondering to see, does Toonami Rewind get an audience? Does it get that sizable an audience? And as a disclaimer, the bar for that, despite it being 200 slots, is kind of high. Now, if you've ever looked at the top cable reruns ratings yourself, anytime the past really decade at this point, you will see one show title appear over and over and over again. That is The Big Bang Theory. I hate that show. I have no idea why people just like it that much, that they're just watching reruns of it. Usually, like, of the top 30 or so, 28 of them are Big Bang Theory slots. I digress. I checked and I saw Toonami Rewind did not register in the top 200. Now, this doesn't mean at all it's a failure if it's doing poorly, because like I said, it's kind of a high bar. You would need like a point zero 0.09 or so to crack into that top 200. So, again, since we're probably not gonna ever see the exact numbers of Toonami Rewind, we just know based off that it wasn't a smashing success. It could have been successful. It could have gotten the audience that Warner Brothers Discovery wanted to see, but we're not gonna actually get those specifics. We're not gonna get those numbers like in the way we do get for Toonami Saturday night numbers because they're technically premieres. But again, that's a little food for thought. And again, that's kind of the hazy thing with a rerun block like that is you're not going to get those numbers. But again, all things considered, the online reception to Toonami Rewind so far appears to be good. So take that as you may. And again, this past Saturday, June 8th, pretty good ratings. I almost said My Hero Academia. My Hero Academia might eventually be on Toonami. I keep forgetting that they're actually airing a new season of that now. And again, since we had the first 6 or so seasons on the block, I there's definitely at least gonna be a massive effort to get it on Toonami. I actually expect it to be on Toonami. And if I had to make a wager about what the next show announcement's gonna be, I'm thinking it's My Hero Academia. My personal opinion. But again, decent ratings this week. Pretty good. Adventure Superman holding the line well. Zone 100 picking up. It was One Piece doing well. I guess you could point at Shippuden and say it's kind of doing a little shaky, but again, it's got like what 10 episodes left at this point. We're almost about to say goodbye to Shippuden. That's gonna be kind of one hell of a whiplash, you know. I mean, you usually read the whatever the schedule is, and regardless what's at top, you're like, Shippuden's at the bottom. It's gonna be there. It's gonna be there. But it looks like Shippuden is about to go to the grocery store for some cigarettes and never come back. Actually, they might actually knowing them, they might throw the original Naruto at like 3 in the morning. You're like, oh, we're spreading that since well, we know they have the rights to that because they're airing it right now in Toonami Rewind. They might throw that. They might start with Shippuden episode 1 again, just if they have the rights to it, just to save money or conserve it for, getting the rights to something like My Hero Academia Season 7. But again, what do you guys think? Leave your comments and opinions down below. I'm the Super Orange Cat, and that is all.